regime-sponsored violence that we witnessed again in Hama yesterday is simply unconscionable. Assad has doubled down on his brutality and duplicity, and Syria will not, cannot be peaceful, stable, or certainly democratic until Assad goes.
We're going to go straight to Beirut, where the Wall Street Journal's Sam Dagher is standing by for us with a report on the new bloodshed in Syria. Sam, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Sure, my pleasure, Kelsey.
So we obviously know that this is a situation that is continuing. It seems to be worsening in terms of the bloodshed. We just heard from the Secretary of State. What do you make of this so far? Where are we in this conflict?
Well, we had Kofi Annan yesterday. He's the UN and Arab League Special Envoy to Syria. And he basically said, we're drifting, if we're not already, in a sort of civil war. So those are pretty strong words coming from the envoy, who pretty much admitted yesterday in his speech to the General Assembly that his 6-point peace plan to stop the bloodshed has pretty much failed, and he's looking for alternatives at this point.
And are there any alternatives on the table right now? I mean, how much of a stumbling block or challenge is the fact that Russia stands behind Syria and even China?
Absolutely, that is the major challenge. But they spoke yesterday. Both Kofi Annan and the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon spoke about reaching out to a core sort of contact group, and this would include not only Russia and China, but also possibly Iran, which is something that was mentioned by Kofi Annan. This would be a contact group that would initiate a fresh diplomatic effort to end the bloodshed, to begin a political reform process. And he said that this contact group would include countries that are both close to the regime, to the Assad, and those who can actually also influence the armed groups that are fighting the regime.
And Sam, when we look at what is happening there and the violence, we should note that Syria's UN representative has denied that it is pro-government forces that are committing this violence. So how difficult does that make going forward, or any sort of discussions on any peace plans that might be on the table if they're denying that their forces are even committing these acts?
Yeah, that's pretty much has become, the standard response from the Syrian authorities. What the Syrian representative of the UN said yesterday, that this was pretty much something that was engineered by what he said, inciting media outlets ahead of the General Assembly meeting. He said this is becoming a pattern. And what he said was that there was an armed group. Both he and the Syrian government news agency said there was a terrorist armed group that went into this village and killed a bunch of people, like 9 people. And then the villagers called security forces for help. They came in, clashed with the attackers, and then all the attackers were killed, and 2 soldiers were killed as well. That's the official story. But the problem is, there are, as we know, there are UN observers there, unarmed. There are about 300 of them. They were prevented from going there, and this is something that happened on Wednesday. And this obviously the General Assembly was taking place yesterday, Thursday. So they were prevented from going, and that they were even shot at. And and they haven't made it yet to the village, according to the reports that we're getting now.
Right. Sam, thank you so much. Certainly horrible pictures to watch there, and testing the West patients out of Syria. Thank you so much for joining us. This is, of course, a fast-moving story, and you can stay tuned to WSJ.com throughout the day for any updates.